Own Plant Propagation Guide. Methods and Key Tips Part 2. Now that you're familiar with the general rules, various maintenance methods, and suitable tools for propagating houseplants, it's time to introduce the correct propagation methods for indoor plants. It's important to note that different plants propagate through different methods. Sometimes you can propagate a plant using multiple methods, while other times only one method may be suitable. However, various propagation methods exist for houseplants. Offsets. Some plants produce smaller plants alongside their main stem, which are called offsets or pups. These offsets possess all the characteristics of the parent plant, with the only difference being their smaller size compared to the parent plant. Properly propagating houseplants using this method requires a great deal of precision because you need to ensure that these small plants have sufficient roots, as insufficient roots may prevent these newly independent juveniles from surviving. If you intend to try this method, choose an offset that has been alive for several months and has grown to a sufficient size. If the offset of your plant is small, give it some time to continue its growth and mature. Once the offset has grown sufficiently, use a sterilized sharp knife to separate it from the parent plant, transfer it to a new pot with fresh soil, and after performing these actions, ultimately care for it like the parent plant. Some plants suitable for propagation via offsets include Tillandsia, Aloe vera, Aechemia, Haworthia, Pilea peperomioides, Kalanchoe, Silver vase, Propagation of houseplants by offshoots. Some houseplants produce offshoots at the end of their stems or on their leaves. These offshoots are essentially miniature versions of the mature plant, and when the leaves and roots of the plant have grown sufficiently, they can live independently. All you need to do is separate these offshoots from the leaf or stem and plant them in a pot with suitable soil. Afterward, your task is to provide adequate care and proper watering for the plant, so that after a few weeks you can witness the growth of your offshoot. When it comes to offshoots, remember that they grow in two ways. Some can root on the same leaf or stem, while others need contact with soil to root. For propagating offshoots that have already rooted, you should gently separate them from the main plant without damaging the roots, using a tool like a pruner, and transfer them to soil. It's better not to separate all the offshoots from the main plant to avoid damaging its appearance. However, for offshoots that need soil contact to root, place a smaller pot next to the main pot and bend the stem with the offshoot so that the offshoot touches the soil surface. After a while, this offshoot will start rooting, and you can separate it from the main plant. Some plants that you can propagate by offshoots include spider plant, Pilea peperomioides, 3-dot stem or branch cutting. Many houseplants can be propagated by stem or branch cuttings. If you want to propagate a plant this way, you should choose a stem without flowers in the spring or summer season. After selecting and cutting the stem, you should immediately place the cut end of the stem into new soil. However, keep in mind that if you have taken your cutting from the cactus or succulent family, you should allow the cutting to rest outside of the soil for a few hours to a day, to allow the cut end to callus and dry out. This process, known as pinching, ensures that your cutting will be viable and your propagation successful. When propagating houseplants by stem or branch cutting, you should select a stem that is strong and healthy. Generally, a stem of 10 to 15 centimeters is sufficient, and it's better to make the cut just below a node on the stem and at the point where a leaf attaches to the stem. Remember to make this cut with a sharp and clean pair of scissors or shears to prevent the stem from becoming jagged or contaminated. Then, remove the leaves from the lower part of the stem and make sure never to place the cuttings on a contaminated surface or table, as they are highly susceptible to contamination. Caring for new roots in the stem cutting propagation method of houseplants depends entirely on the type of plant. If you have placed the cuttings in soil, you can gently check the condition of the roots by carefully moving aside the soil. If the roots have reached approximately 3 centimeters, it's best to transfer the plant to a new pot. The most challenging part of the process is transferring the plant from a highly moist environment conducive to root growth to a drier environment. Therefore, it's better to continuously monitor the plant in the first few weeks after transfer. After transferring the plant to a new pot, you can use a water-soluble fertilizer to nourish the plant, repeating fertilization once a month. Once the plant has achieved adequate growth, continue fertilizing twice a week in spring and summer, and once a month in fall and winter. Some suitable plants for propagation by stem cutting include begonia, dragon tree, corn plant, spider plant, pothos, yucca, propagating houseplants by leaf cutting. Some houseplants can be propagated by leaf cutting. To do this, simply separate the leaves of the plant you have with your hands or sterilized scissors and allow the cut end to dry for a few hours or a day to prevent rotting. Keep in mind that some plants like Sansevieria have large leaves that can be divided into smaller ones, and you can use all of them as cuttings. After the leaves are prepared, place their cut ends upright in soil or water. Try to ensure that most parts of the leaf are above the surface of the water or soil to prevent rotting and enable it to perform the necessary photosynthesis. Just having a few centimeters of the leaf submerged in water or soil, with adequate support to prevent it from falling, is sufficient. Some suitable plants for propagation by leaf cutting include African violet, begonia, holiday cactus, aloe vera, jade plant, Sansevieria, ZZ plant Samyakulkas. Plant propagation through seeds. Plant propagation through seeds is the most cost-effective method. However, unfortunately, there are few indoor plants that you can propagate through seeds. The biggest challenge of this method is that you need to invest a considerable amount of time in nurturing a seed until it grows into a mature plant with leaves or flowers. Nonetheless, this method still holds value in trying, and if your current plant produces seeds, there's nothing to lose or spend, and you can easily experiment with this method. In this method of propagating indoor plants, if you have a greenhouse, you have a significant advantage because you need to provide fresh soil and balanced temperature for planting seeds, which is easier to achieve in a greenhouse. After providing the necessary conditions, as soon as the seeds germinate and turn into seedlings, you need to double your care for them as these young seedlings are highly vulnerable to damage. Finally, continue caring for the seedlings and watch them grow. Some suitable plants for propagation through seeds include Gerbera, Bird of Paradise, Dahlia, Swamp Palm. 6. Propagating houseplants by layering. Another method of propagating houseplants is through layering the stem. Most trailing plants, or those with creeping stems that can independently root, can be propagated through layering. The advantage of this method is that it significantly reduces the risk of cutting a stem. However, the downside is the space it occupies, and during the rooting period, this space needs to be available to the plant. Nevertheless, if you have sufficient space, the disadvantages of this method will not be significant. 1. Ground layering for propagating houseplants. To layer the stem in the ground, select a healthy and strong stem and secure it with a clip or wire in a smaller pot placed next to the main pot. Then, expose the stem from the soil and keep it upright. Next, make sure the middle part of the stem is completely buried in the soil because the plant needs contact with the soil to root. The mother plant still provides nutrients to this stem until it forms its own roots and can supply nutrients itself. At this point, you'll see new growth in the young plant, and you can separate it from the mother plant and have a new plant. 2. Air layering for propagating houseplants. For this method, simply separate some stem leaves from it. Then in the middle of where you separated the leaves, use a sharp and sterile knife to cut about 1 to 2 centimeters of the stem skin or make a deep slanting scratch on the stem. Make sure not to let this scratch heal, so it's better to place a piece of wood like toothpick in the middle to prevent it from healing. After separating the stem skin or scratching it, moisten some sphagnum moss and squeeze out excess water. Then, place the moss around the exposed part of the stem or the scratched area until it completely covers it, and place a transparent plastic over it. Clear plastic helps you see the plant's rooting. Then, tighten both ends of the plastic so that no air or moisture enters or exits. After about a month or more, you should be able to see the roots, and at this time, you can separate the rooted stem from the mother plant and plant it independently. Be careful to separate all root balls from the stem. Some suitable plants for propagation by layering. Spider plant. Pothos. Pilea. Propagation by division. Some houseplants can quickly spread and grow in width. You can propagate these types of houseplants by dividing them into smaller parts. Dividing a plant is an easy task. Simply remove the plant from its pot and gently divide it into several pieces from the roots. Remember that each divided section or part of the plant must have its own root ball, otherwise it won't be able to absorb the necessary nutrients and will dry out. If propagating through division in the garden, you can use a shovel, but never do this with indoor plants as they are more delicate. Therefore, it's better to do this with your hands or a sterilized sharp knife. Some suitable plants for propagation by division. Peace lily. Asparagus fern. Calathea. ZZ plant Samioculcas. Snake plant. What is the best medium for rooting cuttings? A soilless medium is the best space to kickstart the growth of a cutting. This medium should be lightweight, with excellent drainage, and have a high oxygen level. The rooting medium can include water, perlite, vermiculite, sand, or a combination of perlite with any of the aforementioned mediums. That was our guide to propagating houseplants. We hope this information has been helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our future videos. Thank you for watching, and good luck.